At the T-minus 3-minute mark, tape recorders on board the spacecraft were turned on. These recorders record both voice and data. We have ignition sequence start. The engine's now building up to 7.7 million pounds of thrust. We have a launch commit and we have a liftoff. Moving back. The Saturn V lifting off.
This is WOMM LP operating out of Burlington, Vermont, 105.9 The Radiator. Good evening, it's the Rocket Shop once again. I'm your host, Tom Proctor, and with me tonight is Todd Moses. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. I mean, can't complain about the weather.
Yeah, well, it's...
Although you kind of could, but that's a big picture thing. We'll not think about that today.
I'm loving the fact it's peak fall at the very least. So we always like kicking off with a song. So
Yeah.
would you like to introduce one and take it away?
Sure. This song is actually ends up being very timely after last night's debate, if that's what you call it. So this goes out to all the people that tortured themselves by watching that last night. You got the perfect disguise. You got an airtight alibi. You got the gleam in your eyes. You know just when not to lie. You got half of the truth, showing me what I want to see. Don't take no super sleuth to see what's right in front of me. It's just a game we play. We must have lost our way. Planning my getaway. Can't stand another day. We built our own little space. There's a nice big echo there. It's a total disgrace. We're pretending that we care. You can take it from me. There's dots of darkness there. Crazy from all that heat, from the fire that's in our hair. It's just a game we play. We must have lost our way. Now I'm planning my getaway. Can't stand another day. We got the pie in the sky. We got a chicken in every pie. Don't ask them how or why. As long as I keep what I got. You can take it from me, but I will take it right back again. That's how it works now, you see. When the means becomes the end, it's just a game we play. Now just lost our way. Now we're planning our getaway. Can't stand another day. 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 Can't stand another day.
All right, Todd Moses with Can't Stand Another Day, by any chance?
That might be the that might be the name. This is a working title.
Well, thank you for coming in. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your musical history, where you're from, when you start making tunes.
I am originally from Akron, Ohio, 40 miles southeast of Cleveland. It's quite a budding music scene there when I was in high school, and it kind of dried up a few years after getting out of high school. And I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where I spent the next 13 years, and then moved to Vermont to be closer to family. And so that's me personally. And professionally, I've kind of done it all at this point. I'm a singer-songwriter. My original instrument was drums. I used to have a business card for my drumming, and it said "from punk to polkas," which was quite literally true. You know, my dad was a polka musician and also an early rock and roller, which seems contradictory, but it turns out it's not. There's a lot of crossbleed in those early guys, especially in the Northeast Ohio and like Western Pennsylvania scene and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Ask me a leading question.
Oh, so it seems like you've come from pretty musical locations. At least, obviously, Nashville sticks out there. Has the places you've lived influenced the music you make?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I moved to Nashville to write country and play alt and indie stuff, and didn't really do a lot of either. but the good country parts really kind of set in, and you hear more of that on this album than some of my previous albums. Like the last band I had was Fujita 5, and that was more of a 3-piece power trio, minimalist rock with a little bit of funk and R&B thrown in on the side. And that had some country influence to it, not as much as I realized until like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years after. And mainstream country is like so unappealing to me that it actually took me a while to just embrace that. But we just call it Americana. So a lot of my influences are people like The Band, Little Feat, stuff like that there's really, frankly, not a ton of market for. So after spending a lot of time John Hyatt is a big influence of mine. So a lot of people were like one step removed from country. So yeah, after spending most of my life trying to like avoid that as a performer, not necessarily as a writer, but as a performer, I'm now I'm being who I am. You know, I think that's one of the advantages of getting old in rock music is you can just start to be who you are because it really doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. So you're coming to us with a lot more of a kind of a bluesy rock. Is that would you say that's like an influence from the Northeast, from Vermont, from the kind of bands you listen to around here, or just kind of scenery and the way that the musical history of this area of the world?
Well, Vermont has definitely influenced me a lot. I've spent a lot of time in it, playing drums in and out of a jam band in the Upper Valley area called the Gully Boys. Been around forever, and that kind of put me back in touch with some of my roots as far as that was concerned. Vermont, I think, allows me to be even more eclectic than Nashville did. And Nashville really does allow you to be eclectic, unless you're in country and then you have to be one thing, you know. So that was, I used to go to jazz clubs down there, and it was great, So, yeah, my influences literally are all over the place. I considered calling this new album All Over the Map, because that's really what, and I've tried to steer that, and this time I just didn't even try. It's like I didn't try for anything to add consistency or anything like that. I figured my voice hopefully does that, and if not, I'm okay with that. That's fine.
You mentioned that you were the frontman of the band Fujita 5.
Yeah.
So what spurred you to do solo work for this project?
Distance. When I moved from the Upper Valley up here 4.5 years ago, the drummer was in Sunapee, New Hampshire. My son was a bass player and he went off to college. And I went through a succession of a couple of bass players trying to replace him, and just never really seemed to pan out. So this album, we have one leftover Fujita 5 song on this, Gone Missing. So those guys helped with that 6 years ago. We released it as a single. It was part of the original sessions, but we wanted to give it more time and give it the treatment it deserved, so it got released posthumously as a single. So that band's basically not around anymore, although you never know when we'll turn up. It does happen from time to time.
Have a bit of a reunion and
yeah,
dust
like
off
everybody.
instruments.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun playing together, so it's the temptation is always there when we can find time. These days, there's virtually no gigs, so
Yeah.
I'm perfectly content to be a studio rat in my studio in Northfield and produce for other people.
Did this solo project kind of coincide with COVID? So was it?
No, this solo project, it took 6 years.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, that's quite a change from where I was in the previous albums before that. I did 2 albums in 1 year, not long before that. 3 albums in 2 years, 4 albums in 3 years. So, I'm going backwards. So I was very prolific, and I was really just forcing myself to have deadlines and stick to them within reason. And I didn't do that this time. And 6 years is what happens. So, yeah.
A real labor of love, but with that kind of elongated time frame, how did that shape the songs that you were creating for this album?
I think that's one of the reasons why it's even more eclectic than usual. That's a really good question. Thanks for asking that.
So it kind of just meanders because you had that kind of space?
Yeah, well, yeah, because, I get in different moods and different modes. I mean, I was in punk and new wave early on. I was in a hot country band in the 80s for 2.5 years. I did an Elton John tribute, for a while. I mean, so I've been all over the map. I really should have picked that name. I just couldn't resist Todd. So, yeah.
So, yeah, you just mentioned that the new album, which was released September 2nd, somewhat self-titled, called Todd.
Yes.
With the last D scratched out. So
yes.
Todd with the 1D.
Yeah.
So 6 years to create this album. Was it all in the studio? Did you have like a vision of this when you kind of started, or is
no,
this?
I really didn't. That's the unlike Make Your Own Party Hat for the End of the World, the Fujita 5 album, and the follow-up album that I did solo with like a million friends called Blue Beetle, which was a blues-inspired tribute to the Beatles. Unlike those where there was very specific plan, very specific ideas, vision, this really was just kind of a patchwork quilt. I'm a big concept, my age, makes me a big concept album guy, and there's no concept whatsoever to this album.
It must have been super freeing though. What kind of got this over the line then? What was because artists have a tendency, or some artists have a tendency to have 1,000 pieces of unfinished work kind of lying around, and usually there's some kind of drive to take one of those kind of unfinished pieces and get it over the line. So what for you was that drive?
You actually just touched on it. It was finally having enough songs.
Yeah.
Because I went through that period of 4 albums in 3 years that I was talking about, where I was very prolific and I was writing a lot, and it was a discipline, and that was something I'd never actually done before. Was forced myself to sit down and write for a certain amount of hours every week. And I did not do that this time, and that's I really prefer writing stream of consciousness. So sort of the other side of that is that I don't spend weeks writing one song. It's usually written in 1 or 2 sessions of sitting down with the guitar. So once I finally got to where I had 10 songs, actually 9 songs, I thought I'll add a cover, the old blues standard, Rollin' and Tumblin'. I'll add a cover, and I'll add a previously released single from Fujita 5 that I felt like belonged on an album somewhere. I'll add those, and bang, I got 11 tracks. And it was literally, I woke up one of those mornings and went, hey, if I do that, I have 11 tracks. It's time to finish these things and start mixing.
So one of those kind of situations where you're just kind of lying in bed and then you get that light bulb moment.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
So from then, was it straight into this? Have you got your own studio?
I was pretty hard at it for the last year, and being a little bit more meticulous with the mixing and post-production and stuff like that. Again, the last band being a power trio, and we did very few overdubs. Usually like one extra guitar, that kind of thing. So there were not, keys on a couple of songs, stuff like that. But there wasn't a lot of overdubs on that by design. We tracked all of the Party Head album. We tracked the rhythm section all at the same time in an open room. This was track at a time. I brought in a friend of mine, Jim Terrell, to do the more intricate keyboard stuff. I'm kind of a hunt and pecker on the keys myself, and by the time you edit it all in MIDI, I sound like a genius, but but I'm not. So I brought him in to do some keyboard soloing, and ended up using that stuff more than I thought I was going to, because Jim is just such a genius. He's got some great stuff out there too, if you want to look him up, Jim Terrell. And I've worked with him on drums on one of his projects as well. So he kind of owed me. So, and we did that all virtual. He sent me over stuff, and I flew him over stuff, and so yeah, it really was just locking myself in the studio and going for it.
So was it your own home studio that you recorded the whole thing?
Yeah, I've got a nice, really full production studio. I mean, I can do full bands and so on and so forth. I do video production as well. There'll be at least 2, maybe 3 videos forthcoming from this album. Not as big a production as some of the things I've done in the past, but just something for some eye candy for people to look at while they're listening to the tunes. Just another way to shamelessly promote the music is basically.
It's definitely what you need to do these days. With the previous albums you recorded with bands, were they in full professional studios? Is this the first one you've done at home, if you will?
No, most of the recording work that I've been on has been in my studio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I decided after doing my first album 20 years ago, and it took forever just to get an album made, this is all, that album was made just as digital brought the costs down. I took that album and I had to beg, barter, and practically literally steal to get that thing done. And it took me like 2 years, and I'm like, I'm not doing that again. And what's more, I want to do whatever I can to make sure other people don't have to do that. So here's a plug. I'm looking to develop artists. I'm looking to develop young artists. That's my passion going forward. I want to set an environment where people don't have to feel so constipated by the money that they don't get their dream realized.
Or they have to do everything in 2 days, otherwise they won't have money.
And there's another problem with that too, is that, and I know because I was an early victim of it myself, is that just because you have the desire and the equipment to make an album yourself doesn't mean you have the aptitude or skills. And I think one of the downsides of the open indie world that we have right now, which I generally, is for the most part, love. I think one of the downsides to that is that you have a lot of people with good songs putting out crappy albums because they think, they either think they have to, or they think they should, or whatever, do it on their own with their Mac and in their apartment. And unless you're doing certain genres, that's kind of hip hop and stuff like that. That's really hard to do. And even that, you have to have a good room to mix. And I have a treated room and correction software and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I even mastered this one myself, which I really don't like to do, but it's about the money at the end of the day.
Right. It's worth the investment of and learning how to do that if you are serious
but
about
it's
your
taken
music.
me 20 years, and I wasn't new to recording at that time. It's taken me 20 years to get to where I feel very confident in my skills.
Well, we would love to hear another song.
Sounds great.
So what have you got for us?
All right. This one is called St. Valentine's Day, and it's kind of a 70s folk pop thing. So, if you don't like 70s folk pop, you might not like it, but try and keep an open mind, because the song's very, very personal and very important to me, and I think it's worth a listen. It's to me, at least, anyway. I'll give you a little bit of background on it. I was a teenage bridegroom, and I allowed myself to be talked into getting married on Valentine's Day. My first thought was, bah humbug. That's a Hallmark holiday. I don't want nothing to do with that. But then I was like, wait a minute. I will always be reminded by Madison Avenue when my anniversary is coming. And unfortunately, that only lasted 2 years, but it put an even more buzzkill on Valentine's Day for me. So, flash forward 35, 36 years, and all of a sudden I'm starting to soften, I guess. And this is the song. Another dozen roses. Somehow they don't smell the same. Another day passing too slowly as I try to heal the pain. Never understood the meaning. Now I understand too late as I watch the flowers wither on St. Valentine's Day. The finest of confections. All right, do we want to try that again? All right, so first we got to figure out what's going on there. There we go, that solved it. All right, we'll start again. I think I can do that first verse better anyway. Another dozen roses. Somehow they don't smell the same. Another day passing too slowly as I try to heal the pain. I never understood the meaning. Now I understand too late as I watch the flowers wither on St. Valentine's Day. The finest of confections can match the sweetness of your smile. Now I while away the hours as I sit and wonder why I never understood the meaning. Now I understand it well while I watch the sugar melting on St. Valentine's Day. Another folded piece of paper with someone else's words, but the corners are all bent and the words are never heard. I never understood the meaning, so I threw it all away, and I watched the paper burning on St. Valentine's Day. Is it too late in the evening? Are your plans already made? Never mind, I think I know. I can see it in your face. All the verse that I could sing you won't make the sadness disappear. But if you ever need a shoulder, you can always lay it here. I never understood the meaning. Now I understand too late. The clock ticks onward towards the end of St. Valentine's Day.
St. Valentine's Day there by Todd Moses. And so you've described yourself as quite a storyteller. So it sounds like this one was quite a personal one. And
Yeah.
previous song was obviously political in nature.
Yeah, that's my obligatory one political song per album.
You always have one.
Pretty much, yeah.
So how do you found these stories? Is it just personal, or do you ever take something from somewhere else?
This one is that last one is very, very personal. Actually, both of them tonight are personal. It's a mix. It's a mix. What I tend to do is take a little piece of either my story or somebody else's story, and then extrapolate on it from there. I'm not good at starting from scratch, and just making up a story. I don't think I could ever be a novelist, I'm more a poet. So there has to be something that I at least am intimately enough familiar with that I know, that I can build on it from there.
Right, there's going to be that personal experience, or at least a kernel of that personal experience in there. How do you go about setting out a story for 3 or 4 minutes? I mean, do you ever get to a 3-minute mark and be like, oh well, actually I've got so much more to say in this, and how do you then condense it down?
This time I did not do that. This time, that song has a lot of verses, right? They're all short, but there's a lot of verses. This time I really, I tried to. The first rule was that there are no rules. Just do what you do. Getting back to what I was saying earlier, just be who I am. So I thought, but at the same time, Todd Rundgren once referred to himself as the kid with the 45 RPM set of ears. That's kind of me. I'm so, and I think most songwriters, born in the second half of the 20th century and beyond, we are so inundated with popular song structure by the time we write our first song that I think most people should just forget about it, because it's gonna happen so naturally whether you want it to or not. That I really have never thought, once I get into the studio, then I put on my producer headphones and I go, okay, maybe we don't need that verse. But if I feel like it needs another verse and I don't have one, I just don't do it. If song is 2 minutes and 30 seconds or 4 minutes and 50 seconds or 7 minutes, whatever the song needs, that's what I believe in. I'm not ever going to be a big star, so I might as well be true to myself, right?
Right. Have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've never found yourself writing a 15-minute, 20-minute epic anthem and being like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. We're gonna have a half an album's worth.
Probably 7.5 is probably my max, and I've been involved in a song that was a little bit longer than that. On the Gully Boys album, and that was more like we referred to it as our hippie magnum opus, so there was that. But yeah, as a general rule, I got those 45 RPM ears. I hear things as a single, and I don't have to fight that urge too hard to go on and on. Plus, I'm not a great lead guitar player, so I'm not going to solo on and on, because I'm not going to be very interesting. So again, it's about what the song needs.
Listening to some of the tracks on your album, I had a little play of them earlier on today, and there's quite a full sound. As you said, you had your friend come in and not come in, virtually come in,
virtually.
and bring in his keys. But it sounds like the whole band backing you. Was that all you, bar the keys?
Yeah, even some of the keys that are not, things like most of the organs. There's a song that there's an organ solo on. Well, that's a clue that Jim's playing. I did all the string arrangements. I played the bass. I'm both the son and the father, not the same person, of bassists. So it's never too far from me. So yeah, I played the bass on this stuff as well.
When you were playing it in bands, were you also the person that could have arranged the songs as well, or was this project the first time you really started arranging
it's kind of funny. It's one of the reasons why I don't do bands anymore, because in high school, and you're putting your first bands together, there was always sort of this collaborative effort, which I love. And I've probably been 20 since I've been in a band that felt that way. So if I'm going to do all the arranging and all the producing, then, it makes it easier. You don't have to deal with people's time schedules and so on and so forth, to just track it yourself. But I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, the album before this is a lot of musicians. There's probably 16 musicians on it. Mostly from Vermont and New Hampshire, but some from around the country. I mean, I got flying in tracks from Guam. Yeah. Guam. So a guy I went to high school with and thought it would be fun, one of those kind of things. And, so where was I? So, there's no doubt that I'll work with a band again in the studio. Whether I'll ever go out and play a bunch live anymore, that's probably not.
Well, talking of which, as you mentioned before, there's not a lot of gigs going on at the moment, thanks to COVID. How are you planning on kind of like pushing out this album? Are you planning on, because I've talked to a lot of artists about this, and people have been doing gigs in fields and gigs over Zoom. Where are you at with that?
Videos, as I said earlier. I'm working on doing a live stream. The challenge with not recording with a band is now I have to beg and barter with my musician friends to say, hey, would you be willing to learn, 11 guitar parts that you didn't create, And once people get into original music, they get really unenthusiastic about learning other people's parts, and I don't blame them. I kind of feel the same way. So yeah, any of my musician friends that are listening to this, hit me if you're interested. I would like to do, a streaming show, and I think I'll start. When I'm a contractor by day, so it's a busy time of year for me. So once the weather calms down and I have a little bit more time, I'll probably start doing a show like this for my studio and have a friend come over and do some songs, and I'll do some songs and stuff like. I've been talking to Jim about this forever. I think I'll finally get around to doing it, but it's not, It is what it is. I mean, I had a website that I paid lots of money to develop and have for years with the last two projects. Peak year, I got like 45,000 hits. I still didn't sell anything, So as far as I'm concerned, as long as people are hearing the music, that's what's important to me. I'm never going to make big bucks at it, so I might as well just try and get it out to as many people that'll listen to it as possible.
Right.
And I have strange followings in places like Central America, Germany. For some reason or other, they really liked the Fujita 5 stuff, and there's part of me that dreams, hey, maybe I should go, go
do
play
a few
those
gigs
places.
in Munich.
Yeah, exactly. But
Get into the beer halls.
yeah.
Well, it's about what we've got time for, but we're obviously going to have one last track. But before I let you do that, tell us how we can find you. So if people want to listen
You
to
can
you songs.
find me. The best way to find me is just search my name. Honestly, I do not keep a website anymore. I do have, however, if you go to my Facebook page, Todd Moses Musician, and that's with 1D, or there's a Here Now link that will let you sample everything, and then also direct you to CD Baby, to Spotify, to Apple iTunes, and Apple Music, and so on and so forth. Or you can just find me on your favorite service. I do my distribution through CD Baby, and they make sure it gets everywhere. And it is, although sometimes it trickles out, but at this point it's everywhere, having been a month.
Nice. Well, yeah, we'd love to hear one last song.
All right, so Maestro, you want to play that one track off the album? So this is the first song on the album. I guess you could say it's kind of the single. Strolling by the florist, seeing
what's in season, wondering if you should. Looking for a reason, I ask myself that question many, many times. Often found a reason to not make up my mind. Think that you're the handyman, know how to drive a nail, fix that broken thing, that you never fail. Good to get the chores done, but that's just not the same as making way for Cupid. So son, you best take aim. That you can't repair, yeah, you got the power. Take my advice, boy, always buy the flowers. Walk by one more time, find another reason not to stop and smell. Soon winter brings the freezing. I know how that feels. Missed opportunities. Just one more shot at spring and the warmth that it will bring. Things that show the love of man, and that should be enough. Think you got it covered, yeah, you got the stuff. Strike that power pose, always self-assured. But all that macho shit don't mean that much to her. Think that you can't please her, you got that power. But take my advice, boy, always buy the flowers. Keep it to yourself. Show her that you're tough. That's not how it's done. Man, that's not the stuff. Want to hear from you. Wear it on your sleeve. She may not wait forever. That you best believe. You don't need to build no ivory tower. Just take my advice, boy. Always buy the flowers. Always buy the flowers. Put that money down. Don't you know the love makes the world go round? Got to buy, lay that money down.
All right, Todd Moses, thank you so much for coming in the studio tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Okay, so catches next week we're going to have a Red Admiral in the studio on 105.9 The Radiator. This has been The Rocket Shop. I've been your host, Tom Proctor, and good night.
Thanks very much, everybody.
No worries, thank you.
That takes a lot to pull that off.